I've seen the movie, played and reviewed the ambitiously abysmal PlayStation game released a year after the fact, and now it is time to analyze the official comic adaptation of 1997's Batman and Robin. There has to be some way to salvage these characters and that story, turn it into something worthwhile, right? Can 3 times be the charm for me? Have I finally found the diamond in the rough in all this? Please God, if you're up there, not to mention real, I need a miracle, just this once. Well, we start the story with Batman and Robin hopping into their vehicles on the way to the museum on what is quite obviously a movie set, and the director even yells action, so you can throw all credibility out the window already. Great. Mr. Freeze smashes through the floor of the Gotham Museum with his drilling truck, in the hopes of stealing the second son of Sudan Diamond. He even says his infamous line, "There is only one absolute everything. Freeze us." What the fuck is that supposed to mean? Freeze us? A diamond? I mean, okay. Batman and Robin smash through the ceiling, and Mr. Freeze saves us from that cringeworthy introduction Batman gives himself in the film. Sadly, Mr. Freeze still blesses us with that phenomenal, "You're not sending me to the cooler" line, so pick your poison. Batman goes after Freeze inside his rocket that was housed in the back of his truck, and Robin latches onto it after it blasts off. You know, this was so dumb, it was in the film too. Why would someone who needs a sub-zero environment to survive bring something that creates intense heat and flame like that? And what was his plan? Use the rocket to escape? Why? It's a museum. It seems unnecessary. Anyways, you know the drill. Mr. Freeze ejects himself out of the rocket, and Batman places some bat charges in its interior to blow it up. The dynamic duo then proceed to surf down to Gotham riding a couple of its doors, which looks slightly more badass than the film in my opinion. They follow Freeze down a furnace chimney, riding the ice down, and Robin says it was cool. Leave the ice puns to Mr. Freeze, dick. Shut the fuck up. The villain's armored truck smashes through the wall, and he makes his escape, not before freezing Robin during his exit. I'm glad they eliminated Mr. Freeze's "I'll kill you next time" line from the film, probably the most idiotic from a logic standpoint. We then cut to the South American jungle, to the laboratory of Pamela Isley. Jason Woodrue enters and steals a supply of venom for his own experiments in his lab, telling Isley he'll reveal his secrets when she reveals hers. Back at his lab, Woodrue has gathered several military leaders for a demonstration. He injects serial killer Antonio Diego with a super soldier serum, codenamed Venom, which transforms him into the heavily muscled Bane. At least that's what Woodrue calls these super soldiers. While the leaders bid on his creation, Woodrue takes Pamela, who had witnessed everything, back to her lab. It's here where she refuses to partner up with him, and he responds by killing her. Seems reasonable. Back at the Batcave, Bruce and Dick go through the origin of Mr. Freeze, a molecular biologist named Victor Freeze, who was trying to cure his dying wife when he was exposed to a cryo-solution which mutated his body. The diamond-enhanced lasers of his suit keep his body at 0 degrees. Without it, he would die. Back in South America, Pamela Isley has survived her chemical bath. The animal-plant toxins have transformed her, and her smooches are now poisonously deadly. Her and Bane decide to go to Gotham, for reasons. I never understood why they just team up. Some serial killer and some botanist? Okay. Back in Gotham, Mr. Freeze is putting the finishing touches on his freezing cannon, which only needs one more diamond before it is operational. Once it is, he will freeze the city and hold it ransom, getting enough money to complete his research on McGregor's syndrome and cure his wife Nora. He actually refers to Gotham as Goat Town here, which is odd, but if you watch the movie again, it appears that the word Gotham doesn't line up with what Ernie is saying. Either it was a goof or a script rewrite or something, who knows. The fact that they kept it in the comic is kind of funny. Maybe Freeze thinks Gotham is the greatest of all time town? No? Fine then. Barbara arrives at Wayne Manor and greets her Uncle Alfred, though unlike the film, the comic makes it clear that he isn't really her uncle, just an old friend of her father's that took care of her when her parents tragically died. Dodged a bullet there. Later at the Gotham Observatory, Bruce Wayne unveils a new telescope donated by Wayne Enterprises that can see anywhere on Earth thanks to various satellites reflecting light to it already in orbit. Batman and Robin set a trap for Mr. Freeze at the Gotham Charity Flower Ball. One of the ladies auctioned off for a date will get to wear the famed Heart of Isis diamond on loan from Bruce Wayne. As the bidding begins, a pink gorilla starts to undress. Gorilla my dreams. Ugh, Robin, enough of the puns. Get the fuck out of here. Go home. I've had enough of your shit. Anyways, it's Poison Ivy who makes herself known. She takes the Heart of Isis and the dynamic duo begin a bidding war over her. Thankfully, Mr. Freeze crashes the party earlier than he does in the film, and we don't have to witness the Bat credit card. As Batman and Robin are busy dealing with his hockey thugs, Mr. Freeze confronts Ivy, who makes fun of his fashion choice and calls him Captain Cold. Haha, funny! She attempts to charm him with her pheromone dust, which has no effect, and Mr. Freeze is able to snatch the diamond away from her and make his escape. Batman and Robin pursue Freeze's armored truck, which smashes through the side of a bridge and lands on a nearby building. Batman tells Robin he can't make the jump and deactivates his Redbird motorcycle. Honestly, the film does a much better job making this believable. Robin could have easily cleared that gap. Anyways, Bruce is able to apprehend Mr. Freeze single-handedly, which upsets Dick. The two argue about it back at the Batcave, and their relationship is heavily strained. At Arkham Asylum, where Freeze has been imprisoned, he is set free by Poison Ivy, having been wooed by his abilities at the Flower Ball. The hulking Bane retrieves his armor after smashing through a brick wall head first, which I have to admit is pretty badass. The three villains make their escape as we are informed Alfred has the same disease Nora Freeze has, McGregor's syndrome, which feels a bit abrupt. Dick tells Bruce that Freeze is at large, and the two make their way to his hideout, the blatantly obvious Snowy Cone's ice cream factory. Inside, they find Nora Freeze in cryogenic containment as well as research revealing Mr. Freeze curing earlier stages of McGregor's syndrome. His wife has a more advanced form though. Poison Ivy lures Batman and Robin to her, where she attempts to kiss the Dark Knight. After Batman refuses, she tells him that every Poison Ivy action figure comes complete with Bane, which is false advertising. Anyways, Batman dukes it out with Bane, which was honestly the best fight in the movie, unfortunately. While that's happening, Ivy attempts to seduce Robin and kill him with a kiss, but the Caped Crusader warns him that her lips might be poison, and Robin takes offense to it, misinterpreting it as jealousy. Batman proceeds to punch his partner square in the fucking face and even draws blood, a much better visualization of their partnership reaching its breaking point than having Robin thrown in some sort of ice cream goo like he is in the film. Behind Freeze's back, Ivy deactivates the containment unit, keeping Nora alive, and tells Freeze that it was Batman that did it, to which he promises to make him pay, turning his bones to ice, freezing his blood, and blanketing all of Gotham in endless winter. A doctor looks at Alfred and tells Bruce and Dick that he has stage 1 of McGregor's syndrome, something Bruce knows Freeze has cured, he just doesn't know how. On his deathbed, he gives Barbara a computer disk containing the sacred trust between two men he has considered sons. It takes her 2 hours to hack, but she learns the truth. Bane and Poison Ivy destroy the bat signal on top of the GCPD and replace it with a Robin one. The Boy Wonder responds to the call and confronts Ivy. He agrees to be with her as long as she trusts him by telling him her plan. Ivy explains that Mr. Freeze has turned the new Gotham Observatory telescope into a freezing gun, and proceeds to seal Robin's fate with a kiss. He learns that she never truly loved him, and would want nothing more than to see him die. Robin reveals that he had been wearing a rubber lips that is, which made him immune to the poison, something he and Batman had strategized prior. Upset, Ivy captures the two of them with her vines. Thankfully, Barbara arrives as Batgirl, smashing through the ceiling and takes out Ivy as Batman and Robin cut themselves out of their predicament. She tells them who she is, and that she knows their secret. Batman and Robin are surprised, however. No fucking shit she knows who you are. All of Gotham should at this point. I mean, Robin, that mask doesn't hide anything. And Batman, you're a billionaire for Christ's sake. Mr. Freeze proceeds to use the telescope as a giant freezing ray to put the city of Gotham on ice. Batman, Robin, and Batgirl make their way to the observatory, though, to put a stop to it. On their approach, they are attacked by Freeze's goons, skating with machine guns and driving Freeze's armored truck. The guys on skates, they should have thought that through a bit more. They are no match for tech-heavy vehicles. What the hell were they thinking? Rather than deflect its Freeze cannon back at the armored truck like Batman does in the film, he straight up blows it up with a couple missiles. Wow, Batman even makes a pun. Funny. Don't you think that man will freeze to death in that water? Who cares, right? It's not like you have a moral code or anything. Mr. Freeze orders Bane to take out Robin and Batgirl, but leave Batman to him. By the time the heroes reach the telescope, Freeze is nowhere to be seen. They decide to use the satellites to relay sunlight from the equator and target it directly on Gotham to thaw it. Batman is blindsided by Freeze, who fires his freezing gun at the Dark Knight, who manages to block it with the protective cape of his Arctic armor batsuit. Like a Bond villain, Freeze proceeds to pull a lever which activates a trap door, getting rid of Robin and Batgirl for the time being. Batman fights back against Mr. Freeze, and it's hard-hitting. Kinda makes up for the weak-ass fight they have in the film, but not really. Batman then finishes realigning the satellites, and the city begins to heat up and melt. Robin and Batgirl manage to grapple up to a ledge on the side of the observatory, conveniently where Bane happens to be. How unlikely. They have a brief battle with the Meathead, and Robin manages to rip out the cord at the back of Bane's mask, getting rid of his venom supply, and reducing him into a small, shriveled-up man on the floor. As Gotham thaws, Mr. Freeze tells Batman to finish him off, kill him, just like he did his wife. Like a Teletubby, Batman opens up a little screen on his stomach and proves that Ivy had deactivated Nora's cryo container, not him. Batman reassures Freeze that Nora is alive though, and he had her restored, ready for him to continue his research at Arkham. And the next thing spoken by Batman, almost identical to the film, is actually a moment in the movie I find to be pretty good. It's great even. When Batman says vengeance isn't power, that anyone can take a life, but to give life, that's true power, a power Freeze once had. Batman then asks Freeze if he can help him save another life, show him how to cure McGregor's Syndrome Stage 1, and maybe then, Freeze can save the man his wife once loved as well. He's still alive, buried deep within the snow. Freeze gives Batman the cure, and he administers it to Alfred back at Wayne Manor. In no time flat, Alfred is back to his normal self. The three heroes form a partnership and shake hands, with Alfred saying they will need a bigger cave. Can't wait to see how this story unfolds in Batman Unchained. Oh, it wasn't made? You're telling me it didn't happen? Aww. So, that's the official comic adaptation of Batman and Robin. Is it better than the film? Did it provide any new context or perspective to what happened? Not really. There were a few added-in moments and visuals not present in the movie, but they were few and far between. When there was something new, it didn't really add a whole lot and was insignificant in the grand scheme of things. Honestly, I think the comic adaptation of Batman Forever I reviewed last year managed to give us a little bit more than this one here. I was hoping the fractured relationship between Batman and Robin, which was arguably one of the best ideas the film provided, would be explored a little bit more and done more effectively in this comic, but it wasn't, sadly. There were some heavier visuals, but the pacing of the story didn't give that element time to breathe, which kind of sucks. Speaking of the pacing, it's just as bad, if not worse, as the Batman Forever comic. It's just go 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 in some areas and barely touches on certain parts of the film I would have believed necessary. Alfred being sick comes out of the blue. You just see him in bed and there's nothing building up to that point or hinting that he's sick. It just happens. Even some things like Barbara being interested in Dick's motorcycle is hinted at, but all she does is drive it at night. It never mentions any illegal street racing or anything like she does in the film. Doesn't seem that important. I guess to provide us context in her ability to ride a motorcycle? I don't know, I'm grasping at straws. I feel bad for Dennis O'Neil for having to write this. Yes, the Dennis O'Neil. Adapting this terrible script while at the same time trying to tell a relatively enjoyable Batman story would have been an impossible feat. I mean, it's still readable and can be a lot of fun in areas, but it's got all the same issues the movie has. You have to expect that. O'Neill even added in his own puns, which are just as painful as the ones in the film. He probably thought he might as well go all in on everything, have some fun with it, why not? That Gorilla My Dreams one though, that's worse than any used in the movie I think, he managed to beat it there. The artwork by Rudolph Dimaggio is great, and embodies the look and tone of the film. Is that a compliment though? Dimaggio would leave the comic industry in the early 2000s to become a concept and storyboard artist in the film industry. He worked on Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones, Episode 8 The Last Jedi, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, Hulk in 2003, and even some of the Iron Man and Captain America films in the MCU. Say what you want about the Batman and Robin film, but I've always considered it to be a masterpiece of terribleness. It's one of the worst superhero films ever made, but it somehow manages to also be one of the most entertaining. I'm endlessly fascinated with its existence, and I think I have made my fair share of content on my channel talking about it. I've discussed the PlayStation game, read and reviewed the official comic adaptation, and in the next few months I'm going to be discussing it in a podcast. Lucky for me. This has been NerdGasm. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that subscribe button and bell icon to be notified of all future content I release. If you want to have a say in what comic I review next on the channel, head on over to patreon.com/channelnerdgasm and become a $10 patron or above. I want to thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.